Now, I want to preface this with I'm not a pro gamer. I like to think I'm pretty good, especially if I put my mind into something and I invest a lot of time into it. I do pick things up quite quickly. But essentially, I've just got a lot of hours in this video game. I enjoy this video game. So I just want to take a look at some examples of community anger. I want to look at nerfs, exotics within Destiny 2, but mainly come back and reiterate the point of essentially if you don't like it, don't play it. Now, to get us started, I also want to say that a lot of you might, let's say this video takes off and thousands of people see it. I'm not saying it's likely, but you never know. That I'm not dick riding Bungie. It's not one of these things where, oh, you're defending the $1 billion company. It's nothing like that. I do have problems with some of the decisions that they've made. It's more a case of I want to bring control back to the player. You guys have way more power than you believe, and you just don't use it. So yeah, we're gonna take a look into this now. To start with the stuff that I didn't like, if we look at just the most recent release of Lightfall, the story isn't great. It's basically just a Strand promo. You can tell it's filler, especially when you see like the opening cutscene and the ending cutscene can kind of be glued together, which I thought was quite funny. But I also don't agree with the fact that the cost of everything's gone up. I mean, the cost of the expansion in itself, as well as the cost of the season passes, that's something I especially don't agree with. Especially with the season pass one. I mean, you're charging, was it 1,200 silver, which works out as like 12 quid or $12 if you're American. But you can't buy 1,200 silver bundles. Like, come on. It's just such an easy oversight to fix, especially if you want people to do it. I understand why they did it. They're doing it because they want you to spend money on the microtransaction store. But, you shouldn't... It should be always be optional. You shouldn't be forcing people to spend the extra money. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, and the other thing I definitely agree with is, especially recently, the stability issues to do with the game and the mad sort of spaghetti code shit that's been going on. I definitely think that's worth discussing because, if you are going to charge me more to play the video game, at least make sure I can play the video game. Do you get what I'm saying there? The stability issues in particular have been mainly seen in PvP, but I've noticed even in the PvE space as well. It's something like, you try and log onto the game and you just get error coded out, and then you log in and it's fine. It's like, well, why did it get error coded in the first place? I don't get it. But anyway, moving on to the sort of main subtext of topics today. I wanted to get started on nerfs. So, the Destiny 2 community has a big problem with nerfs. Now, I get it. You get attached to a weapon, you get attached to a piece of armor, you get attached to a playstyle. It's fun, you like it, this is your jam. And then the dreaded word of nerf gets hit to it, and you take it personally. And I fully get that. I do. It's happened to me in the past. There's weapons and styles of play that I grew accustomed to, and it got nerfed, and it just doesn't ever feel the same. The one from probably most recent memory for me personally is Geomag stabilizers, where they took away sprinting, gave you the rest of your super as long as it was above like 75% or something. I loved Geomags. They were my favourite exotic. I loved playing Arc Warlock for that reason. But I also understand why they nerfed it. I do think it should have been a PvP only change. I don't think it affects the PvE space that much. But I understand why they did it. Getting, 25% of your super energy for running is kind of bullshit. So that's my experience personally. But the one I want to start out with is Divinity. Now, Divinity has been a hot topic for the Destiny community since its inception, which, in case you didn't know, it's a Raid Exotic from the Garden of Salvation. You complete a quest to unlock it, and what it does is it will debuff your enemies, it'll stun overload champions, and gives the enemy a giant crit spot. Now, before the nerf, this was a 30% debuff, which I believe is the same as Hunter Tether. Correct me if I'm wrong. And they nerfed it so that it was only 15%. The crit bubble's still the same, still stuns overloads, it's just only a 15% debuff. Now, when the talk of this was happening, the kind of like primary source I saw all this, if you like, toxicity coming from was towards a player called Saltagrappo, who has, you know, multiple world's first clears. The guy is a fucking Destiny demon. And he mentioned it, and then Bungie was like, we were already looking at it, but the community kind of latched onto that and was like, oh, you just want to make the content harder for everyone. Not everyone plays the game for a living. And it's like, I understand where you're coming from, but Divinity was too strong. Like, you can't have a gun that crit spots the largest thing you've ever seen, does the same debuff as a Hunter Tether indefinitely. It's like, why would you ever run a Hunter Tether? Just take Div. It's like, okay, you need special ammo to keep the uptime high, but special ammo is not exactly hard to come by. You know, special ammo finders, special ammo finishers, good RNG. It's very rare that you'll run out of special ammo. Let's be honest. So it did need touching, but the anger from everyone for them nerfing it, and it's like, guys, it's okay. Like, Divinity is still good. It's still a solid exotic. Okay, the debuff's not as big as it used to be, but it still gives you that massive crit spot, so you'll essentially never miss. And I think that's something that a lot of people forget, especially in the Destiny 2 community, where as soon as something gets the dreaded nerf word attached to it, it's garbage, it's trash, it's the worst thing I've ever used. We're never going to ever be able to use it ever again. So, well, of course you are. There's nothing stopping you from continuing its usage. It's just not overpowered, and that's okay. The next example, kind of like running off of this topic, is Vex Mythoclast. Now, Vex Mythoclast is the raid exotic from the Vault of Glass raid. Now, when this first got re-released back into Destiny 2, it was extremely underwhelming is probably the word I would use for it. I didn't have it at this time. I just saw, Datto and Aztecross and quite a few other big YouTubers talking about it, and it was underwhelming, especially for a raid exotic. Like, you don't get these guns easily. It's pure RNG, whether you get it or not, and then when you finally do get it, and it's just meh. It's not really what you want from your raid exotic. Then it got buffed, and it got buffed hard. It got buffed a lot. The damage profile of it was insane. You could do ridiculous things with Vex Mythoclast. It became a play in PvP for those who were using it, where, if somebody's got a Vex Mythoclast pointed at you, it's kind of like, well, GG, go next. We're not taking this now. So in response to that, Bungie acknowledged that they overtuned it and brought it back down. And as soon as the nerf word got attached to it, nobody used it anymore. As, it's been nerfed, I don't like it anymore. It's not overpowered. It's just like, no. Vex Mythoclast is still good. There's genuinely nothing wrong with it. It still gives you a primary and a special weapon in one. Especially if you combo with, like, Warlock's Reign of Fire or Radiant buffs or just, any kind of buffs like that, which are very easy to get. It's still strong. It still puts in work. But because it got nerfed, everybody started using it. And it's like, guys, it's okay. It's okay for things to not be overpowered just because the thing doesn't die in 0.2 seconds doesn't mean that it's not good anymore. and that's kind of another key point as well. I'm probably going to touch back onto this when I get onto the topic of double special, but I wanted to go through nerfs and exotics first. Now, next that I wanted to talk about is Starfire Protocol, which is the most recent nerfed Warlock exotic. Now, Starfire Protocol, for context, has been meta now for, I want to say, 3 seasons. Yeah, something like that. So about 9 months. And it was strong. It was, let's be honest, overpowered as shit. It did the most single target damage. You could heal yourself with your fusion grenades. It was spawning out orbs of light like there was no tomorrow. It was ridiculously strong. In the most recent Season of the Deep patch, Starfire Protocol got nerfed so that instead of getting like lots of grenade energy back when you're doing weapon damage in a rift, you now only get like 2.5%, something like that. And it's basically to try and curb it being the one-stop shop for single target damage. And it needed, guys, it needed to happen. You can't complain that Starfire Protocol is overpowered and it feels like it's the only thing I can use, and then when they nerf it, then complain that it gets nerfed. Like, just use something else. Use literally anything else. Like, a good example here is around a similar-ish sort of time, or like midway through after, you know, Starfire Protocol was running everything. The solar grenades, the big ball of sun that you chuck at enemies, that got buffed by 20%. I'm just going to put a picture of the patch note here. So since this patch, sun braces would have been ridiculous, but nobody was using it because Starfire Protocol existed. And I could go into a whole other topic about like video game metas in general, so if you did want me to touch on that, honestly, just let me know. Long story short, you guys probably won't like it because I'm very anti-meta. I don't think metas in video games are a good thing, especially with like the ease of access of information of, like, you know, your YouTubes and your social medias. But that's probably a topic for another day. So, as I was saying, with Sunbracers would have been strong for a while. It didn't really take off until towards the sort of the end of the season, where people finally started breaking them out and going, actually, Sunbracers are ridiculous. They do so much damage. But because you were so hung up on Starfire Protocol being, oh, it's overpowered, it's meta, you didn't use anything else. And this is kind of the problem that we're going to keep coming back to. I want you guys to seriously take a look at yourself and tell yourself that it's okay to not run the most overpowered shit all the time. Maybe, and this is going to sound like a really foreign topic to some players, maybe use something because it's fun. Like, do you guys remember that you're playing a video game? You're literally playing a game about being a fucking space wizard that throws different coloured magic balls at people, and you have guns that freeze people and cause people to explode, but because it's not meta, I'm not going to use it. It's like, it's okay. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Now, the next in line I wanted to take a look at is Stompies. Now, Stompies are a very sensitive topic. I didn't realise how sensitive until they changed the nerf, I'm going to say, for Stompies. So originally, the first nerf was that if you wore Stompies, you still get all your mobility, but you basically lose all of your ability to aim your gun in the air, which sucks. Nobody wants that. So, as part of the Season of the Deep patch, Bungie took another pass at Stompies and said, okay, we're going to give you your airborne effectiveness back, however, it's going to be at the cost of your dodge. So now, Stompies get your mad-ass mobility of your fucking hoppity bollocks jumping all over the place. You get that, as long as your dodge cooldown is up. And holy shit, you guys are angry. Like, so many people kicking off about the Stompies nerf. And maybe it's a me thing. I'm not a particular fan of mobility exotics. I would much rather use anything that provides me, with actual utility. But I know people like them, so fair enough. And it's like I understand why you get angry when your favorite exotic gets nerfed, but guys, especially when you're a hunter, most of the time you're specking into mobility anyway, right? So you can't do your mad jumpy shit when your dodge is on cooldown. Unless I'm mistaken, dodge is one of the, if not the shortest cooldown in the game. So if you're running high mobility, and this is before you start looking at stuff like utility kickstart and getting your class ability back for grenade and melee damage and buffs like that, it's on cooldown for 20 seconds. So for 15 seconds, maybe, you can't jump 10,000 feet in the air and you can't slide really far. Guys, seriously, who the fuck cares? It doesn't matter. When I saw all the complaints kicking off about Stompies and the nerf, I saw a lot of quite high profile players. I think the one that sticks into mind is say Wallabra, who was like, yeah, Stompies don't feel good anymore. I don't particularly like them. And then I think one of his more recent videos, and he was still using them. So that, as far as I see it, they can't be that bad. Like, all of your overpowered shit should have some kind of compromise. There's the other argument is, well, if you're gonna nerf Stompies, you should also nerf transversive steps and doom marches and the other classes mobility exotics, because they provide utility as well as the sprint speed. It's like, guys, okay, if it makes you feel any better, nerf transversives. Like, genuinely, okay, when I run for a bit, my weapons reload. Okay, you saved me one button press. I don't get it. If it makes you feel better, do it. Nerf them. I know one of the other things I saw was people saying, well, because you've nerfed the Stompies, then I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna abuse other cheesy shit, and I'm gonna start using Young Hamkar as spine and throwing trip mine grenades everywhere. It's like, guys, good, do it. Like genuinely, if it makes it fun for you, do it. Because that's what it comes down to at the end of the day, guys. You can use other things. We're in a video game where you have, 800 guns? And 300-ish exotic options. I don't know if that's classing ornaments and that, but you've got so much potential and so much to play around with, and you guys are getting pissed because your hoppy boys don't hop for 15 seconds. Like, really? Is this what it's come down to? I said, maybe it's a me thing. I don't particularly use movement exotics. I've used them before because everyone was like, "Oh, they're insane." So I put them on. I'm like, "Cool, I run faster." I got set on fire. Okay, but if I use this other exotic, I can infinitely throw grenades. So I don't care. But like I say, maybe it's just a me thing. But I thought Stompies was a good one to bring up. But like I say, once again, it's okay to use other things, guys. Seriously, just try something else. You never know what you might fall in love with. The other thing I wanted to look at was Well of Radiance. Now, Well of Radiance, since its introduction in the Forsaken expansion, has become a staple in almost any end game encounter ever. And there's a lot of talk, once again, for people like your Saltographos and your high level players, we're basically saying Well of Radiance needs a nerf, and it comes down to the Divinity argument all over again, where, oh, but if you don't like it, don't use it. And it's like, yeah, but guys, you got to understand it. That at their level, when you are playing it for a living and you are into your speed runs and your boss melts and things like that, you're putting yourself at a massive disadvantage by not using it. So why wouldn't you? If it's there, use it. Like, as far as I'm concerned, if it's in the game, it's fair game. And I think a lot of people have forgotten this. I'm gonna delve into PvP a little bit later, where I'll kind of reiterate this point. But sticking with Well of Radiance, like, guys, come on, let's be honest. Well of Radiance needs a nerf. The amount of damage resistance and healing and weapon damage buff, it makes you borderline unkillable. And don't get me wrong, you can still die in a well. It's happened to me. I've seen it happen to other players. It's unlikely, don't get me wrong, but it can happen. But it's like, I think one of the most refreshing things in recent memory is fighting Rolk, who is the Vow of the Disciple boss. It's like, okay, you can run a Well of Radiance if you really want, but he's just going to come and kick you. Awesome. Great encounter. Fantastic boss fight. And it shows that you can do things without needing the well. And I think it's become a point where we're so reliant on it and we're so dependent on it that the thought of using something else is scary. And I'm here to say again, guys, it's fine. Use other things. Have fun. It is a video game. You know, before I get onto some of the more recent controversies, I did want to briefly touch on another topic, and that is the way this community responds to Bungie and to the devs. I feel like this is an important one to bring up because, guys, it's not okay. And once again, I feel like I need to reiterate this. I am not saying defend the $1 billion company. They make mistakes. People make mistakes. Fully accept that. But you can't do things like, bully people off of like social media and send them death threats because they're not giving you a toy back. Like, are you a fucking child? The fuck is wrong with you? In case, for those of you who don't know, I'm kind of referring here to the Twilight Garrison scenario. Now, Twilight Garrison was a Destiny 1 exotic that gave Titans the ability to Icarus dash in the air, and it was very popular. People loved it. I didn't play Destiny 1, so I never got the chance to actually touch onto it. But I understand that it was popular for a reason. But then I think I can't remember what the dev's name was, but he came out and said it's not coming back. And fuck me, you guys went off. Like, there was no... I think in the end he ended up like quitting social media and quitting Twitter, or at least taking a break from it, because of the amount of shit you guys were giving him. Obviously this doesn't go to everyone, but the amount of shit this guy was getting for saying you're not getting an exotic back was ridiculous. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you all? It's not okay, man. It's not okay to do that to people. Like, in Bungie, you may not like some of the things that they communicate or some of the things that they do, but yeah, if we just compare it to the Call of Duty devs, when it comes to Call of Duty and transparency with their players about what they're doing, what's going on, acknowledgements of bugs and things like that, you get fucking nothing. Like, literally nothing. I think it's like if one of the developers comes out and goes, "Oh, we're thinking we might do this for Warzone," that's huge. And what you've got here with Bungie doing their TWABs and their community managers and their community manager talking about the game is a huge deal. You've got so much information to look behind the scenes, and they let us in. And like, I hate to be the one to tell this to you guys, they will take it away. They will stop communicating with you if you carry on being dickheads, because there's just no need. I don't care if they turn around and say we're resetting all of your exotic progress because if we don't, the game will break. I don't care. It does not give you the right to bully people like that. It's not okay, guys. Like, and I know a lot of people, and I've heard this argument before, particularly in Call of Duty, which, you know, tune into the follow-up episode on that. But I've seen a lot of people say, well, they've taken my hard-earned money, so if I want to give them shit, I'll give them shit. No, I'm sorry, that's not how it works. Like, I'm not gonna say for who, but I've got a lot of experience in customer service roles, working for a variety of retail stores in the tech space. You could come in and spend $5,000 in the store. It does not give you the right to talk to me like shit. I don't care who the fuck you think you are. And it goes with video games. Like, okay, you've spent $100 for the year to play the video game, and you dislike something that they've done midway through that. Okay, use constructive feedback to feed that back. Don't go straight down, oh, fix your game, oh, I hate you. Guys, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't mean shit, and it'll never mean shit. The best example I can give is, like, PvP players do have a good argument to sit on with the whole connectivity issues, but instead of jumping on your Twitter account and being all like, oh Bungie, fix your game, you prick. No, like, turn around and go, guys, we've got connection based issues. This is my example, and you put up a video clip of a Syntheseps Titan TPing across your screen everywhere and sucking you in the mouth. Can you do anything about this? Now, I'm not a game dev. I don't know anything about developing games. I can imagine they might be able to fix it. They might not be able to fix it. I honestly don't know. But doing that is far better than just going and screaming at people on the internet. And I can't believe that in this day and age I'm having to say this. Is this not the kind of shit that you learn in school? I don't know. Maybe it's just a me. Now, as my next point, I wanted to take a look at some of the more recent controversies and anger and things of that nature. Specifically looking from this season for Season of the Deep. I think it was day one. Yeah, day one. Season's just come out. Everyone's excited. You can now go underwater and look at a big fish and go fishing and all that jazz. But one of the highlights was that they were bringing back a lot of the Gambit Prime weapons. So, Spare Rations, Outlast, Soul Survivor. These quite, high regarded weapons within the community. Now, Spare Rations kind of took off just as I took my year-long break from Destiny. So I didn't really get onto that. I think I came back just as Bungie took away all the 150s except Sunshot. Yeah, I think except Sunshot. So I never got it, but on day one, I'm seeing people getting their first Spare Rations drops, and they're like, it's trash, it's garbage, I hate it, it's not as good as the old Spare Rations, or Stringers, or IS Luna's just better. It's like, okay, if that's the case, use those guns. No one is forcing you to use the new ones, or I should say the returning ones in this case. Destiny 1 has Destiny 2 is a huge power creep problem anyway. Like, you want to persuade people to use your new weapons, so you make them really ridiculously strong, or you give them some new snazzy perks that kind of like overshadow the last ones. And for the first time, at least for me anyway, relatively recent memory, they finally released guns that didn't just overshadow the existing ones. And you guys are complaining. It it's day fucking one, dude. It's day one of a new season, and you're already bitching that, oh, it's not as good as the Ostringer. Then use the fucking Ostringer. Like, seriously, no one's forcing you to use the new one. Yeah, I'm just going to have a look at my spare rations here. So on mine, I got a moving target and kinetic tremors roll. So I was like, oh, okay, it's interesting. I could live without moving target. I would have preferred a better roll, but this is what I got on my first drop. And I tried it out, and I was like, yeah, it's a hand cannon. I like the way it sounds. Feels kind of nice. And then I just went back to using my grenade launchers and my SMGs and my sidearms that I use quite a lot, because that's what I find the enjoyment in. Now, as a brief comparison, I will show you my Ostringer roll as well, because I have a fully crafted one. Now, I know a lot of people will freak out at this because it's not Eye of the Storm rangefinder. I'm not a big Eye of the Storm guy, and I really have been. I understand why it's good, and I accept that it's good. It's just not for me. I prefer my guns to handle quite well. So I opted here for a snapshot opening shot roll. And I'm not going to lie, it's not for me. Like, I went to all this effort of, getting it leveled up and investing the resources in it, because it was like, oh, yeah, it's amazing. It's one of the best hand cannons in the game. And I was just like, cool, I'll do the thing, and I'll get the thing. And then when I got it, I was like, yeah, it's all right. But this is my point. You don't have to use the same thing as everyone else. I feel like this is a really, sort of rare thing to say, especially nowadays, but, I don't like the Ostringer, and that's okay. It's like, you may not like spare rations. Does somebody shooting you with spare rations, or, using it in a PvE activity, does that affect you in any way? I'm going to spoil it for you. The answer is no. So why does it matter? Like, seriously, guys, especially in Destiny 2, 99.99% of your content is so fucking easy. It's so easy. You could rock up to most activities with fucking full white gear and the cast-off auto rifle you get when you first log into the game, and for most things you'll probably be okay. So if Spare Rations comes back and it's not as good as the old one, that's okay. It doesn't matter. Use something else. It's not the end of the world. As mentioned previously, I didn't want to touch on PvP. Now, you guys do have some legitimate complaints. The connections are god-awful. Some of the matchmaking, I don't really want to get into SBMM in this video. If you did want me to talk about it, let me know. It's something that I would happily talk about. I do have some opinions of it. I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing. But anyway, with Destiny, Crucible in general, especially when you complain about connections and things like that, fully understand it. I get it. But the meta's been a bit stale. Disjunction got released and it wasn't a great map. I understand some of your complaints. However, on the other side of things, I see a lot of people who play nothing but PvP and they complain that it's bad all the time. And it's like, guys, if you don't like it, don't play it. Play literally anything else, and that's okay. To be quite honest, if you're playing Destiny PvP now and you're playing Destiny 2 just for their PvP and nothing else, it might be time to find a new game, guys. Seriously, the reason I play Call of Duty was Destiny was no longer fulfilling my, I don't know, fast action respawn casual shooter PvP needs, so I stopped engaging with it. It's like you guys going onto Twitter and complaining at the first fucking community manager you see, saying that the PvP is terrible and you need to fix it and you need to do this and oh I hate it. It's just like it's not gonna do anything. If you truly want to make a difference and change PvP, the best thing you can do is not engage with it. This is coming from someone who, before I took my long break from Destiny, which was the Shadowkeep year, before I took that break, the way my gameplay loop worked was I would go into PvE to grind the guns to go into the Crucible and shoot Guardians in the face. That's what I enjoyed doing. But then after my break, I came back and it never quite hit the same. And that's okay, because I stopped playing it because it wasn't enjoyable anymore. If something is making you that sad and that angry to engage with it, just don't play it. But more importantly, that if you don't engage with it and the player numbers of that activity drop, Bungie will take a look at it and go, okay, why is nobody going in the Crucible? Maybe we should take a look at it. And that's when you can look at your constructive feedback instead of screaming into the void. As we're coming along towards the end of the video, I know this has been a long one, and I do appreciate you guys for sticking around. There's a couple more points I want to make. As my final point, I want to talk about difficulty in Destiny 2. I feel like it kind of like spirals off that last one of most of the content in the game is insanely easy. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because obviously last week the Ghost of the Deep, the new dungeon, launched, and I got my first clear of it. I actually did it with a good friend of mine, it's Shumbles, or you'll see him as Rotate Him at Rotate from our Rainbow Six videos. But we do a lot of two-man clears of things, so two-man GMs, two-man dungeons, that kind of thing, just because it's what we've always done. And Ghost of the Deep, aesthetically gorgeous. The boss fights are different, they're interesting, I kind of like them. The lore is awesome, the voice acting from Ziva Arath, incredible. But the reason I want to bring this up is within 24 hours of the dungeon dropping, I'm seeing people complain that he's got too much HP. The final boss has too much health. Like, granted, the dude has a fuck ton of health. He has a ridiculous amount of HP. But the way I'm looking at this is, well, Root of Nightmares came with Lightfall, which was the newest raid, and everyone was saying that Nezarec, or the final boss of it, had too little health. He was too easy, he was a pushover, and people were one-phasing him in like contest mode, and that's not okay. Like, that should never, you should not be able to one-phase the new raid boss on day one. It shouldn't happen. But you can't complain that Nezarec had too much health and was too easy, and then when Bungie actually bring you a boss that not only shoots back, which is rare, let's get that clear straight away, not only does he shoot back, but you have to like actually think and plan out your DPS phase a little bit more than just stand in a well and shoot at the stationary boss because he's stunned. Like, really think about this, guys. What the fuck do you all want? Do you want the game to get harder, or do you want it to be a walk in the park like Nezarec? Fucking pick one, because I'm genuinely getting sick and fucking tired of hearing it over and over again. Oh, Destiny's too easy. But then when they release something that's got a slight challenge to it, oh, it's too hard. Fucking pick one. With Ghost of the Deep in particular, I think I can't remember who I saw talking about this, but they did mention that, one of the solutions to it would be having damage scaling for low man clears, and fair enough. That's actually a good idea. I could actually get on board with that, kind of like what they do in the legendary campaign. But one of the complaints that I saw was it's gonna take me too long to solo. Like, okay, no one's forcing you to do it. Like, I understand that solo flawless dungeons are a thing. I've done a couple myself. I've got the I've got the shiny stuff from Prophecy and from Grasp of Avarice, where I completed it solo flawlessly, and it was fun and I enjoyed it. But then when I did my first clear of this and I started shooting at that final boss, I was like, oh, this is going to take a while. I'll give it a go eventually. But what you're looking at doing here is one-manning an activity that was designed for 3 people to do in the end game, and you're complaining that it's too hard. It's fucking meant to be. And once again, I'm going to reiterate this point. No one's forcing you to do it. If you don't want to do it, just don't do it. But more importantly, if you do want to do it, don't then complain that it gets too hard, especially if you were one of these people that was saying that Ruined Nightmares was too easy. You can't have it both ways, guys. Do you want the game to be harder, or do you want it to stay casual and easy? You can't have it both ways, and the sooner we realise that as a community, the better. Okay guys, I know this was a longer video than anything I've ever done. I'm kind of trying something different here. If you did like what I had to say, or you don't like what I had to say, let me know. Like, dislike, comment, subscribe if you want to hear more. I will be releasing a new episode very, very shortly to do with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. It's going to follow a similar sort of structure. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with anything that I've said? Do you think that I'm full of shit? Either way, it's fine. I'm genuinely curious in your guys' opinion. So if you have stuck around to the end, thank you. I appreciate it, especially because this is like my first time doing this. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you in the next one.